Boo. Hey, what's up everybody? It's Amaya. So today's video I am so excited to film. I've been planning this video for a while and I'm just really excited to finally share it with you guys. So today, obviously if you read the title of the video, you know that we are going to be talking about foundations that are best for each skin type. I am super excited to film this because I have tried so many foundations this year, and now that we're nearing the end of 2020 and I have done my extensive research into foundations, I can finally share my opinions with you guys in a really good, educated, formatted way, and I am super excited to do so. So the way that this video is going to go is I'm going to be sharing 5 foundations for 3 different skin types with you guys. Obviously, I'm choosing oily, dry, and combo skin. I know that there's kind of some overlap in there, and there's different skin types in general. For example, I'm combo dry. I figured that if a foundation would work well for another skin type, I'll just mention it as opposed to making things overcomplicated. And I have chosen 3 drugstore and 2 high-end foundations for each category, so that way I'm able to give you guys the most affordable and accessible foundations, so that way I'm not over here just rambling on about really expensive foundations that nobody's gonna buy. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm gonna try not to ramble a lot in this video. We'll see how that goes. No promises, but yeah, I guess without further ado, let's just hop right into the video, shall we? Okay, so we are going to be starting out with some picks for my dry skin peeps out there. The first one I have to mention is just a tried and true favorite. If you guys have been around here for a while, you are sure to recognize it. It is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow Foundation. I just absolutely love this foundation, and the main reason is because of the finish. It just has such a nice glowy finish without being obviously sparkly or shimmery or anything like that. It's just a regular liquid foundation. It's not a highlighter or anything like that. It's very lightweight as well, and it provides a nice medium coverage. You could make it more light coverage for sure, but I would say it definitely leans more medium, which I think is fantastic. It just wears really nicely on the skin as well, doesn't dry your skin out, make you look cakey or anything like that. It is honestly one of the best foundations I have tried in my entire life. Any of the L'Oreal foundations that say infallible on them, they all tend to be super long wearing and live up to their name, which is awesome, especially for foundations made for dry skin. They tend to be a little bit more glowy, dewy, moisturizing, and they can kind of tend to wear away. This one does not, so check this guy out for sure. All right, next, if you are in the market for something that's a little bit more light coverage, a little bit more natural, I would definitely go for the Covergirl Clean Fresh Skin Milk. This is probably my newest favorite that I have found this year. It's just so good. It's probably gonna be in my top 20 of 2020, honestly. It's so good. The things that I really like about this are the light coverage. Obviously, it's not such a light coverage where you feel like you're wearing like a tinted moisturizer, but it's definitely on the lighter end of things. You could probably build it up to be a close medium if you wanted to. It also is very smoothing to the skin and provides a really nice glow, and it's easy to apply and has a good wear time, which again is very hard to find with foundations marketed towards dry skin. They tend to be a little too moisturizing sometimes, and they don't have the best wear time. I love this one for every day. I think it's fantastic, although I can definitely swing this with a more full glam look just because it has such a nice smoothing effect to it. You kind of look blurred, which is really hard. It's really hard to do that when you have dry skin, and you can tend to be flaky or just have some texture. This just smooths everything out, looks really, really beautiful, and I absolutely love it. I will mention that I know some people have had adverse reactions to this. They've either broken out or just had some itchiness go on with this foundation specifically, so I would keep a watch out for that. I'm not sure what ingredient in here kind of has been causing that, but I haven't had any issues, so I really like it. All right, and then the last drugstore foundation I am so excited to talk about because it's actually a remix of one of my other favorite foundations, and this is the Wet n Wild Photofocus Dewy version. I have loved the Photofocus foundation forever, and so when they came out with a dewy version, I was so excited. The thing that I love about this is the coverage. It has a medium to full coverage without being cakey and matte, which dry skin people, you know how hard that is to find. This looks so smooth and blurred on the skin, and it's also fantastic for photography. This line of foundations is specifically made to be photographed, and it does not have any SPF or any sort of ingredients in there that are gonna cause any flashback, which is why I choose to use the Photofocus foundations on clients whenever I do their makeup, because it just looks so good. It's also very long wearing, which I can appreciate, and I would say the finish is definitely more of like a dewy satin It's not as dewy as the previous two mentioned, but it definitely has a nice skin-like glow to it, which I really appreciate from a medium to full coverage foundation because that's very, very hard to find. So yes, totally recommend this. Absolutely love it. I think it is fantastic. And definitely check it out if you're going to be photographed or be on camera, anything like that. Really good foundation. All right, moving on to the two high-end foundations that I have here. So this one I'm gonna mention I am actually wearing today on my face, and it is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous Foundation. So this foundation got a lot of hype when it was first released, and I have to say, it absolutely lives up to that hype. I love this foundation. Things that I like about this one are the coverage and the finish. Those are probably my two favorite things about this. The coverage is definitely medium to full, very similar to how the Wet n Wild one is. It also has a nice glowy slash satin-like finish where it's not too dewy. And it's also so long lasting. I look at my face at the end of the day with this on and I'm like, okay, I could keep going. And that's one of the things that I love in a foundation is that you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to touch it up. You don't have to fix anything. It just wears really nicely with your skin. This one is just so good. It's so easy to apply. It's so smooth. Absolutely love it. I think it's great. Whenever anybody comes into Ulta asking for a foundation and they kind of just say that they want a nice natural looking foundation that has decent coverage, I always recommend this one to them. So if you're looking for a high-end foundation that has a decent amount of coverage but is still long wearing and not mattifying, I would highly recommend this one. And don't you worry, my dry skin friends. If you are looking for a matte foundation, it is not impossible to find. I know it's really hard to wear matte foundations when you are dry. Dry and matte do not really mix. However, I have a really nice recommendation for you that you probably have not heard of. This is the Smith & Cult Veiled Threat Weightless Micro Blurring Foundation. So I tried this out when it was on sale at Ulta. I had never heard anything about it, but it looked like it had pretty good reviews, so I picked it up, and I am so glad that I did. This is super lightweight on the skin. It's also very liquidy, which I like, and I think that helps contribute to its weightlessness. It also has a really solid medium coverage, and the thing that I love about this is how blurring it looks on the skin, which is really hard to find in a foundation for dry skin, because dry skin just tends to like to accentuate all the parts that you don't want, you know, all the flakies, all the hairs, all the dry patches. Yeah, no, this will smooth it out. And my main reason for choosing this is the fact that it is a satin matte finish, and that's really hard to find in a foundation for dry skin. They tend to be very moisturizing and glowy, and this one is not. I mean, it definitely has a nice satin finish to it, but it leans more matte more than anything. If I had to put it in a category, I'd put it in matte. And I am just so grateful that I found this and that I tried it out. So definitely check out this foundation if you have not. Also, it feels very expensive and heavy, even though I feel like it's a pretty standard high-end price range. It feels almost like luxurious, which is an added bonus. Okay, we are moving on to oily picks from my oily skin friends. So the first one does not really need an introduction because I mentioned its sister product in the previous category. This is the Wet n Wild Photofocus Foundation. Just such a good staple foundation. It has a nice satin matte finish, it is long wearing, and it is great for photography. I use this on all my prom clients, like I said before, and it just looks so good in photographs, and it also is so long wearing, like I said. It wears so well. It's kind of crazy. It's also very smoothing to the skin, and the best part about this is probably the price point. Like, it is so affordable and so good. If you gave this foundation to me in a different bottle and told me it was like a $40 foundation, I'd believe you. It's that good. I've used this one for years, and I just think it is one of my top picks for really anybody in any skin type, but oily people, if you're looking for a good drugstore foundation, check out the Photofocus one. All right, so this next foundation I probably have the least amount of experience with, but from the little experience that I have, I can say that I believe it would be better for oily skin. This is the Covergirl TruBlend Matte Made Foundation. So this foundation, like I said, I've only worn a handful of times, and I didn't love it so much for myself because it is more of a matte foundation. However, I think it would be better for those with more oily skin. This is lightweight, it has kind of like a medium coverage, light medium coverage, and it has a good wear time as well, which I think is really nice. It's very smoothing as well, and it does have that nice matte finish. It also says that it's transfer resistant, and while I have not tested that specifically, I can say that this feels very transfer resistant on my face. It feels like it's going to stay put and not wear away, which I think is an essential for any oily skin person out there. Okay, and now this foundation might come as a little bit of surprise to you guys because looking at this foundation, you would not think that it would be tailored towards oily skin, but personally, I think that it would work really nicely on oily skin. This is the Physicians Formula, the Healthy Foundation. So when this first came out, I was really excited to try it because it seemed like a dewy, glowy, everyday foundation. However, that is not what this is. This has a light coverage that you can kind of build up to medium, but it has a very satin finish. It's not glowy, it's not dewy like the name would suggest. It is very satin. So it looks like your skin, but it definitely has some mattifying properties to it. And that's why I think it's really good for oily skin, because oily skin people can have a hard time finding light coverage foundations or tinted moisturizer type foundations that aren't super overly moisturizing and are gonna make you look like a grease ball. This one I feel like can give you that kind of no makeup, light skin look while still controlling your oil and not breaking up and getting out of hand really quickly. That being said, it does have some skincare products in here, so it is gonna be a little bit more on the glowy side of things, but it definitely is the most matte of the light coverage foundations that I have tried. So that's why I think it would be awesome for those of you that have oily skin. Okay, so this next one definitely comes with a little bit of a steep price tag, but I think that is well worth it. So this is the Perricone MD No Makeup Foundation. And when I originally bought this, I was under the impression that it was kind of good for dry skin, but contrary to popular belief, this is actually a fairly matte foundation. It has like a nice satin, smooth, blurring kind of finish to it, which I think is why it would work really good for oily skin. Because again, I don't feel like there's a lot of light coverage, skin-like foundations on the market that are marketed towards oily skin people. I feel like they're mostly pushed at dry skin people, but I think that this one would work fantastic for those of you that have oily skin. It's a little bit more of a thicker consistency, which you wouldn't expect from the name, but it does have a little bit of a thicker consistency. And like I said, it has that nice matte kind of blurred finish, which is really, really nice on the skin, but it doesn't provide a ton of coverage where it's gonna make you look cakey. It definitely covers up imperfections or anything that you kind of want to cover while still giving you that skin-like finish. There's also good skincare benefits in here. Perricone is known for their skincare, so it's formulated with good ingredients, which is also really nice. So if you've been looking at this foundation and not sure if it would work for you, I can say that I would definitely sooner recommend this to someone with more oily skin than someone with more dry skin, purely for the finish. So check this out if you're interested. Okay, and then the last foundation that I have for oily skin is, again, another contender that you wouldn't necessarily expect for oily skin. This is the NARS All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation. This actually says on the back that it's a semi-matte finish, which I think is a really good way to describe this. It's kind of like a satin matte finish. It's kind of what I've been describing for the majority of these foundations. But this one is not kidding when it says weightless. It is so light on the skin. It does provide a decent amount of coverage. I'd say light to medium. Probably you can build it up to a good solid medium, almost full coverage. It also has good wear time, and like I said, it is matte. So if you want a very lightweight foundation that's not going to be super cakey but is still going to wear, highly recommend this one. I know that it's hard to find a foundation that provides good coverage and is mattifying without being super heavy, and I think that this one definitely does the trick. All right, last category, we are moving on to foundations that I think are best for combo people. So what I'm going to say about these foundations is that they could actually work for either of these other skin types. They just might need some tweaking or some extra help with primers, powders, stuff like that. But these are kind of the foundations that I'm going to say are the most universal out of the bunch. So the first one I have to mention has been just one of my favorites this year, honestly. This is the Revlon Candid Natural Finish Anti-Pollution Foundation. I feel like most people were raving about the concealer from this line, and honestly, I think the foundation is way better. I absolutely love it. It just has the most perfect, smooth, satin dewy finish on the skin, and it wears so well, like so well. It's a little bit of a thicker consistency too, so it does give you a decent amount of coverage, and it just feels like it's going to stay on your skin, but it's not dry, it's not too oily, it's just the perfect in between, which is why I think it would be really good for combo skin types. I would say if you are on the combo to dry side of things, this might be best for you. While if you're on the combo to oily side of things, you may have to do some work with some mattifying primers or stuff like that to make this wear as long as you may want. I love the longevity, I love the coverage, I love the feeling of it on the skin. It's just so good. This is definitely one of my go-to foundations. All right, next we have one that kind of got a lot of hype in the beginning of this year and the end of last year, and that is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. So this foundation has been praised for many reasons, but one of the big selling points of it is how long it wears. And while that is a really awesome thing, I think that my favorite part about this is the finish. It is such a beautiful, true satin finish foundation where you have that little bit of a skin-like sheen to it, but it's not glowy or dewy in any way. It's so beautiful. It's also very liquidy, which is not what you would expect from this foundation, but it is so weightless on the skin. It's unbelievable, like unbelievable how weightless it is. Also applies to the skin really nicely and easily, just kind of smooths everything over. I absolutely love this guy. So definitely lives up to the hype for sure. I think it's just fantastic. So if you are definitely like a true combo skin person, this will be great for you. If you lean combo oily, this will be great for you. If you lean combo dry, this will be great for you. I definitely think this could work for any skin type. Okay, so next we're going to be talking about kind of an oldie but a goodie foundation. This is the Maybelline Matte and Poreless Foundation. It is just a beautiful satin matte finish, and the longevity on this, while not as good as some of the other foundations I've mentioned, is still really good, especially for the price point. I also really like the shade range of the Maybelline Fit Me range. I think that it has a nice kind of gradient to it, and you can kind of find different undertones if you need them, which is really rare from the drugstore, honestly. The coverage is definitely a solid light to medium, leaning more towards medium, and it kind of works for everybody, which I think is really just a rare find, honestly. Okay, now moving on to the high-end foundations. So the first one I have to mention is the Sephora 10-Hour Wear Perfection Foundation. I'm sure you've heard a decent amount about this foundation, mostly because it's one of the only products from the Sephora collection that's actually good. But this foundation definitely lives up to its name. It is super long wearing. It's also very smoothing on the skin, which I think is fantastic. It has a nice satin finish to it. Definitely a little bit more on the matte side of things, but I would say it's a true satin for the most part. I also feel like this one you can kind of feel on your skin. You definitely know that you're wearing foundation when you're wearing it, but it wears so long and just lasts so well that I don't really notice it that much. Medium to full coverage, but very smoothing and blurring, which I think is fantastic. I think this could work for anyone in the combo spectrum. All right, and then lastly, this foundation I saved for last because it is probably one of my all-time favorite foundations, and I recommend it to so many people, and I just have to share this one with you guys because I think it's kind of a hidden gem. This is the Bare Minerals barepro Performance Wear Liquid Foundation. The thing that I love about this is how lightweight it is. It's just a very, very light coverage. I definitely would say that this has a satin finish, but it can lean a little bit more glowy depending on what primer you put underneath it. Don't be scared though, if you have more oily combo skin, I think you would still absolutely love this because it wears so well on the skin. It is incredibly long wearing and also incredibly lightweight, so it's not going to make you look cakey or cracky or any of that sorts of gross stuff, whether you have dry skin or oily skin. It has a nice medium coverage as well, which I think is fantastic. You can definitely build it up or sheer it out. This is one of those foundations that makes you go, okay, I can see why you might want to spend a little bit more rather than get something from the drugstore, because I honestly can't think of anything from the drugstore that compares to this foundation. It is unlike anything I've ever tried. I just feel like the longevity factor and the light weightlessness of it and just how beautiful it looks on the skin. It doesn't even look like foundation on the skin, yet you look perfect. It's a really weird concept. I do not know how they did it, but Bare Minerals, you created one of the best foundations, I think, on the market, and I just don't think it's really talked about. So wanted to mention this for you guys. Definitely check it out. Okay, so that is the end of the video, you guys. We got through all of that. I feel like I was fairly concise. I didn't ramble too much. Kind of proud of myself. If you have any suggestions, please let me know down below. If you have any opinions on these foundations that you want to share, definitely let me know as well. If you have other suggestions, let me know down there too. But that is it for me, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, of course, and I will see you in my next video. Mwah.